Hey, what's up guys, it's METAGAMESGX here, and we're going to be taking a look at my new Master 1 deck list for Branded on Master Duel. I really think that Branded's one of the best decks this format. It's a top 3 deck if you know what you're doing. It has its really great matchups into Snake Eye and other decks that are right now wreaking havoc in the meta, so if you want a great pick that can really chew through the current metagame, I think Branded is a great pick for you. So guys, make sure to leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below what you guys thought of the video, check out all the links, and with that being said, let's get right into it. Alright, so the story of how this list came about was that I was struggling a lot on stream to hit Master 1, as you guys saw when I first tried to get back to it. I was using a build from last format that just wasn't really working as well, and so I took ideas from AboMod's list plus Stardust list, who recently did very well with Branded in the DC Cup. I wanted to really use this build in order to cut through the current metagame, you know, be able to be prepared for all the decks, right? Because Master Duel is still very much an open kind of game where you could see a lot of different decks, and with the prevalence of hand traps like Max C in the game, you really have to have the best options for, you know, every situation. So that's why we're running 60 card here. That's why 60 card is the standard on Master Duel, because 60 card really does allow you to keep all your options in a best of one format. It's not like you have a side deck, so you're essentially combining your side deck with your main deck in Master Duel, but then also 60 has so much power and consistency in the Master Duel because of the fact that we have 2 Branded Fusion and 2 Gold Sark here, which really do like just prime the consistency for this deck. Also the fact you get to run Max C, which is just, you know, free card advantage essentially, and with the prevalence of how good grass is with all of this combined, I think that 60 card build ends up being the best build, and we're gonna go card by card and talk about my choices. Alright, so yeah, I do like the 2 Tragedy. Still, we were on this earlier when we first hit Master this format, and I do like the 2 Tragedy because it allows us to have basically a double retribution, of course. You know, Tragedy is essentially a retribution on your own turn if you don't use its search effect for a Luber, and then also it's great for chain blocking with things like Cartesia to dodge an Ash Blossom. So I do think that I like the Tragedy. I won't lie though, I did miss searching the Mercourier in 1 or 2 cases because just not having the option to search it in like a grind game can come up sometimes, so I might just go back to the 2 Mercourier for that reason. It's not like the Tragedy was super impactful. It wasn't really winning me games, maybe as much as I would have liked it to, so I could definitely see myself cutting that back to 2 Mercourier. I just think Mercourier is just like too good. If you run out Mercouriers in the grind game, you might be a little bad, but I don't know, Tragedy was fine. Maxi also, this card was great for the most part. It was resolving a lot towards the end of my run, so whenever this card resolves, it's great, and then if it gets ashed, even better, honestly, in my opinion, because then you won't get ashed on your combo, which can really hurt your board breaking ability, and you know, called by kind of is whatever, because then you get a little hand loop, but it's okay. 2 Albaz. I was running 2 to 3 Albaz a lot of the different times. I think actually on my list on Twitter I had the 3 Albaz, and then we have 3 Fallen of Albaz. I have been going between 2 and 3 Albaz, honestly, but I did just settle on 3 Albaz towards the end of the run. And once again, the Twitter story with this is that, and generally the story with this deck is that I was struggling around Master 3 a lot with just not being able to play into Blue Eyes decks very well, so I changed the deck up a lot actually and made a build that was really good, and we ended up having like an 80% win ratio once we actually changed the build. We went from like Master 4 to Master 1 in basically a day, so I was very happy with the changes that this build presented, and we're gonna get into it right now. Yeah, but 3 Albaz, I mean, you just have so much Blue Eyes. Just hard opening the Albaz sometimes helps, and also it just helps for board breaking. It's a starter, right? Going second a lot of the time because you can get the Mirror Jade and at least up a board, or at least help yourself combo a little bit. So yeah, no, I do like the 3, but 2 is definitely something I was really enjoying as well because we are running the Branded Sword, which does help us recur the 3rd Fallen of Albaz. And then I do have the 3 Aluber, the Jester of Despia. Of course, this guy is the GOAT, best 1-card starter in the whole deck. And we aren't running the Lane Darkness Dragonlord, but we still have a great combo with Branded Banishment that allows us to set up a great board with just 1 Aluber, so that's why we run that 3, and then 1 Tri-Brigade Mercourier. like I mentioned before, possibly opening back to 2, but this guy's the GOAT, best hand trap in our deck. And then one Spring Ends Kit, this is great for the Branded High Spirit plays so that we can always have a way to Branded Fusion if we have High Spirits live. So, and then we have the one Golden Sword Soul. This is also something that kind of came in and out of the run, but was largely in there because it's really good into Tenpai with its it can be used as a board breaker or as a defensive card to stop an attack and destroy a card on the field when an attack is declared. But more importantly, it has the graveyard effect, so you can send it off a Sanctifier to revive a Cartesia when a monster is banished face up on the field, so that you can, you know, have like plays into Stapelia or Murgid on your opponent's turn through hand traps. So that's why I do like this. Also, with the prevalence of Max C, this ends up being one of your best sends off into the Sanctifier, because Sanctifier is of course our general maxi for this list. You can also make Albion and just not summon anymore. If you get Fuwood, I think that's not a bad one, because then you get Lubellion as well, but for the most part you're going to be getting maxied anyway. And then I think more than Fua. And then one Blazing Cartesia. This is also something a lot of people have been kind of asking about. I took this ratio from Abomod. He was running 1 Cartesia and 2 Quem. Essentially, Quem has become a more important card than Cartesia, I think. Cartesia, you just need to have in rotation. Of course, it sucks if it gets Bestialed, but we are running the Branded Sword once again. So if it does get banished, we can always recur it. But just having the 1 Cartesia is really nice for consistency. You don't really want to draw a hand of like Aluber, Cartesia, Quem, and Albaz, right? You can lose a lot of those games going second and even going first. So I think that 1 Cartesia allows you to just have a really nice amount of consistency. I mean, of course, it is like a starter with anything else, but I think with the amount of consistency you already have in your deck, like it's a little bit more or less quality than what we have, you know, with the 2 Gold Sark, 2 Branded Fusion. And Quem is just really good for the grind game. You're grinding a lot in this format because, of course, it's best of 1. So either the games are going to be over at the beginning or they can go very lengthy. And if you don't have the second Quem, it's very good. Also, just having the access to something off of Guignol that's not Quertus is very good if you don't have the Quem in rotation. I think Quem always puts you in the game essentially and forces the battle phase, so your opponent can't OTK you. And Branded, if you're able to just get, you know, survive the turn, you know, especially with Verte Anaconda and 2 Branded Fusion now, as long as you have 2 bodies, you always get to Branded Fusion on the crack pack, which is usually just, you know, game winning. So I do like the fact that, you know, the 1 Cartesia, 2 Quem just really works out well. I could see myself running 3 Quem some days, honestly. And then we have the Bestial package. Honestly, I've thought about like running things like Chaos Angel, Dissipator, SP Little Knight just to make better on like the Bestials plus the Quem, honestly, but we'll see in the future. The 1 Magnuma and then 3 Saronir, 1 Duraswarm. Duraswarm was the go, honestly. I found myself like, he's like easily the 60th card of the deck most of the time. Like, he could be very easily cut, but also every single time I cut him, like, I don't know, every single time he comes up, he's just really good. Like, whether it's just like baiting an Apo and then they have to negate it and then you can high spirit out the Duraswarm in your hand, right? Like, worst case scenario, or best case scenario, you're searching it off one of your 3 Lubellions, which you already run, so you can have a great going second, and then also more importantly have better Verte lines because it gives you a free body for Verte. And also access to Branded Fusion, of course. So I think having the Duraswarm just makes Lubellion so much better going second. So I've been really liking it. I don't think I'd cut it. It's like super high value. It does a lot since it's like a Dark Dragon too in your deck with Allure, Darkness, and High Spirits. I think it's just like one of the highest quality non-engine. I could see myself upping this to 3, frankly, in a future build. It's just so good. And then 3 Shrouded, just like best consistency of your deck. I saw like Abo running 2 and stuff like that. I just think like drawing in this deck is insane. Like, as long as you get to draw, I think in Branded, you usually get to like, whether it's like Thrust or you know, Super Poly or Droplet. So having the ability to draw into really good non-engine, usually as long as you see one of those cards, you're gonna probably win going second, just depending, because we are running a diverse extra deck for the Super Poly targets as well, so we'll get into that. But yeah, the 3 Lubellion is just so good. A lot of people still ask me to this day, but of course it's, you know, you as long as you have like a maxi, literally, you could just like go Lubellion, search like Saronir, banish the Lubellion, summon Saronir, link off Saronir with the normal summon maxi, and then you make Verte Anaconda, because all this requires is to affect monsters, and then this card allows you to pay 2,000 life points, and then you can send a Branded Fusion to the graveyard and resolve it, right? So that's what you're usually trying to do with Branded, and I think Verte really does help with that. We do have a lot of videos on like how to maximize your Verte usage in Branded, so I'd check those out. Links it down in the description, of course, and combo guides for that, of course. And then for the spells and traps, we do have the Heavy Storm. I largely only ran Heavy Storm and not Feather Duster. I think I was running Feather Duster too in the beginning of the run. It wasn't really working. Oh, I think Heavy Storm is so good, honestly. It came up once where if I could set my branded sword and then destroy it with Heavy Storm while destroying some stuff in his back row, and then I would get my Albaz back, and then I could contact fuse off the Blue Eyes board with the Albaz. It's like kind of cool. So I do think Heavy Storm is just like better than Feather Duster in this deck in particular, because it can actually unbrick your hand with like Sword and Retribution sometimes if you hard draw them. So yeah, it's very good, and then it's just very good against Blue Eyes and then most decks. And then as a going second, then One Foolish Burial. And don't worry, we're going to talk about the matchups, because I know some people might be like, what are you doing into Mermail? You know, I think like generally speaking, you would want like things like Droll and Lockbird for Mermail. We aren't running Droll for Mermail, maybe even Nibiru. I was debating on one Nib, but every single time I put in one Nib in my deck, it's like absolutely horrendous unless I'm running Fuelos. And honestly, I'm thinking about running Fuelos next format for the prevalence of Mermail, and also it's still a draw off of Blue Eyes if you time it right. So I think that generally speaking, that we could actually, you know, keep that, or I mean fix our Mermail matchup. At the moment, Mermail, like with Snake Eyes still taking up a lot of the oxygen in the room, it doesn't really have a whole, you know, we aren't going against 10 out of 10 Mermail, we're going against one Mermail out of every like 15 games in general. So I think that not running, you know, at least having the Maxi contingent there is really good. And once again, next format, debating on running Fua or even Droll for the Mermail deck, honestly. And I would rather run Fua in that case, frankly, because I think that Droll, honestly, a good Mermail player can play through Droll depending on the hand, right? So, and then we have the consistency: 1 Foolish, 2 Gold Sark, 3 Allure. We're running 60. I think you have to run Allure at 60. Also, I think Allure has been like one of the highest value cards in my whole deck. I think the ratios work out to where I usually, this is always live, I didn't really have to blind Allure at all on this run, so that was always I think the ratios are pretty nice for that in that case. And then it just draws you once again to your non-engine and you win the game. Also fixes your hands and unbricks them. If you like, with the branded sword, of course, with Tri-Brigade Mercurier, it's just so free. And then 1 Grasslick Screener. This card's insane. I searched this card more than Branded Fusion going second a lot of the time, because you can get Branded Fusion so easily, but this card just like gives you Branded Fusion plus some, right? Because you'll get Tragedy in the graveyard, then you can, you know, use Branded and White for free, right? And stuff like that, or like reset the Branded Lost. And it's also why I like the 3 Albaz, because I don't like to mill all 3 of my Albaz off of grass. Honestly, it can be a little awkward when that happens. And then 2 Fusion Deployment. This was like an Abo mod special, of course, because we talked about this on the podcast. But of course, you know, this card is something that we've talked about this prior to, how this card it conflicts with Verte Anaconda, and Verte is like one of your best cards in Branded in Master Duel, because it allows you to play past Ash and then also resolve Branded Fusion while converting your bad bodies and unbricking your hands. So I think that this card's still consistency, even though it locks you. So a lot of the time you can like, it also plays into Max C, which I do think is still a concern. But because like I got into Master Duel last night and my only play was to go Fusion Deployment. I got double Fuad, right? Like if I get double Fuad on Fusion Deployment, I'm probably losing that game if I don't have Albaz in my, like exactly Albaz access in my hand to just pass on that. Because if I'm going Grand Guignol, I'm just losing the game. I'm losing the game when my opponent has 8 cards and I just have a Grand Guignol plus nothing really else. So this card you have to be careful about. However, it's like there's still so much imperm in the format. So you need something to dodge imperm a lot of the time, and of course you don't die to imperm as much now with Verte, but if you don't draw the Bastiles, you kind of do. So just having this as a consistency. Also, it's a great board breaker going second, right? Because like this is like almost better going second, frankly, to just like skip your normal summon and then just continue to break the board. Great into Blue Eyes to summon the Albaz out of deck and force some things because you run Alba Lenatus. So it just I do really like it for going second. And going first, it's like if you've already max C checked, I can go deployments and just extend my combo, right? It's not bad in that case. And that's usually how I use it at the moment. I don't just like blind deployment if I don't have to because of Max C. Like I explained this on my spreadsheet in my combo guides, but you have to play around Max C as much as possible. It's the most important hand trap to play around in Master Duel. It's more important than Imperm and Ash, frankly. I mean, obviously you have to play around Imperm and Ash with Branded or else you aren't resolving your effects, but I think it's almost more important to play around the Max C and giving the most draws off the Max C. rather than like in TCG where you go like deployment always before a Luber to stick a Cartesia, because like yeah, Fua's there, but you don't have like 2 Fua, 3 Fua, 2 Maxi like in Master Duel, so stuff to consider. But I do like him. This was pretty good on the run. I do think this card helped me climb, frankly. So I do think this was one of the changes I made that was positive in the deck, and I do think that maybe I was a little bit too harsh on this card, but we've seen a lot of other top players cut this card. So you know, I think you just that's kind of like a branded thing. You gotta do what feels best to you and what works for your play style at the end of the day. So I you know, infusion deployment something I'm used to because of the TCG and Master Duel, so maybe that was one of the reasons I was not doing very well at the beginning of this format and struggling towards the end of last, because I cut the fusion deployment in the face of a Blue Eyes format when this card literally just outs the whole Blue Eyes board with Alba Lenatus, or at least forces interaction. I think that's really good. And then also all the Imperm once again. Talent's another one of the goated cards in the whole deck. We're running 2 Thrust, of course, to see it. You know, it was always Talents or basically Grass going second, or Heavy Storm if it's like, you know, Lab or something. But Talents was so good, just stealing Appaloosas. This card's the best card and the best board breaker into Snake Eye, because you just like take their Appaloosa and they can't do anything. You turn off their Ash Blossom and their IP by doing that. So yeah, this card's just like way too good to. I was actually like at some points running like 2 or 3 Talents once I hit Master 1. Still trying that out, and that might be in the future build, because I think Talents is just like a better card than Thrust a lot of the time. Like, if it's very rare where it's just Imperm Pass in Master Duel. Sometimes it is, right? But like, that's why I think like Talents is probably going to be live one way or another. And then Brandon White, because you're running the Grasslook Screener. This card's just great. And then also it's just great to play through hand traps. A lot of the time I had like Cartesia in hand plus a Luber. I had no way to stick the Cartesia. Then they would imperm my Luber, and then I could go Brandon White, like fuse off a Luber and Cartesia, put them to the graveyard, make Grand Guignol, and then at least like set up like Brandon Red for, you know, whatever. Because at various points I was running Stapelia as well. And if I have like Albaz in hand, right, that's a lot of the time that would just be a Mirror Jade, right? So Brandon White just helps you play through hand traps. It's really good. 2 Brandon Fusion, goated card, bring it back to 3. Konami, the moment it came back to 2, this deck became insane, because it was already if you know kind of deck, where if you knew what you were doing, you were already like able to beat every other deck essentially. But now it's just easier because of 2 Branded Fusion, and also now more people are going to be running the deck, so because it's just easier to play with 2 Branded Fusion at a higher level. So I think that you'll see a lot of mirror matches. You have to be prepared for that. That's why I also love the Super Poly. I think Super Poly and Droplet are your best board breakers in this format, besides Talents, also in Heavy Storm. I just think you need like a nice non-engine package that like fully rounds out everything besides basically Mermail, right? Because I'm not really caring about these boards. I mean, obviously Droplet is good against Mermail. I think like Super Poly is good against Mermail because of Mud Dragon, but a lot of the time they're just gonna bury statue you. So once again, that's why I'm like thinking about putting in Fualos, because I think like with Mermail projected to be like the second or first best deck next format besides Blue Eyes, I think like Droll hits both of those decks, and like Fua hits both of those decks decently. Not so much Blue Eyes, but you know, at least against Mermail it helps you not get hand looped as much. So yeah, no, but Super Poly was just way too good. I think like the ability to crack a whole Snake Eye board with Rex Tremend by fusing off their Desiree Appo was just like way too good, and it came up a lot, and I put it in towards Master 2 a bit late, but the card was insane, and I wish I had it in basically all format. Definitely should be running it. I would not run, I mean, it's so hard, but Super Poly, you really have to run the targets for it to be really good in Master Duel, in my opinion. I think it's like solid without like Mud Dragon, like Rex Tremend, because then you can like make Mirror Jade or like Tineclad or Boral or Chaos against Blue Eyes, which is very solid. Doesn't pop, but still gets rid of their 2 best bodies. But I think like running the Rex Tremend and Mud Dragon really makes this card like on a whole another level, where if you just open it against the decks that it's good against, you just win the game. I wish I had Garura as well, because Garura sometimes comes up against things like sometimes against Tenpai, but usually the Alba is just fine, and like Chaos Star Source. So Tenpai wasn't really much of an issue this format. I don't know what happened. Like Tenpai used to be an issue for my deck because I don't run Droll, right? Because they run the Sky Striker cards and they just like draw 5. I mean, a lot of the time these Striker Tenpai decks would just open up broken on me on stream, and then like I'd play off stream, and then their deck was literally just Dora normal summon pass, right? Like their deck was ass because it's so hit. But like if they open like field spell plus engage plus 2, right? Like they're off to the fucking races. So once again, I think Droll is looking to probably, based on these conversations, be on the menu next format. I don't love Droll and Branded because it is a neg 1. However, it is sometimes the only thing you can really do to address these decks, and at the moment they aren't really too common. And once again, your biggest issues right now in the current format were Blue Eyes, Paradise, Memento, and Mermail. And Mermail wasn't prevalent enough. Paradise Memento wasn't prevalent enough for me. It started happening twice, though. I feel like people really only caught onto it with the WCQ when like Josh Schmidt started running it. So I think they're, you know, if that had been the case, I would be running probably Fua for that deck, at least to like draw stuff, because you can play through the Paradise if you have like Super Poly, Duplication, Thrust to like play through it and stuff like that on your opponent's turn, and crack their board at the very least, which is probably what we're gonna have to do in the TCG coming up here, but we'll talk about that when that happens here in a month with K9. Droplet was also insane. A lot of the time I had this at 3 because it's just like it's like the best card into Blue Eyes for the most part because of it dodges Drill Beam. So I mean, as long as you're running Droplet, Super Poly, and you see them against Blue Eyes, you're probably winning that game. But if you don't, and they open Primite, it's a very hard matchup. So that matchup is kind of random when it's good or not. I think sometimes they just open broken, and then also some of the best Blue Eyes players, like in the WCQ, would just never even let me stick an Albaz or like a set card with them, not even knowing I was unbranded. I mean, they'd probably know because I was on 60 card, of course, but you know, good Blue Eyes players aren't going to let you set an Albaz against them for a Lenatus. So at various points, I did cut this card, but I think just having it as a threat is really good, and then also as a send off of Mirror Jade is super solid. You guys might be wondering why I'm running one Mirror Jade. I was running 2 Mirror Jade at various points. I just feel like having a utility extra deck is like way too important in Master Duel, like having the options and not... I hate playing Branded where I'm missing an option. Like, I'm grinding and then I just lose because I don't have like a Stapelia in my extra deck, or I just lose because I don't have like, you know, a Quertus. Now obviously I'm not running Stapelia, and that could be the said about the double Mirror Jade, but I feel like the double Mirror Jade and Stapelia come up least, and these cards come up more often than not where they actually matter. And like Mud Dragon's also like a way... The theory with this is like this stops you from being targeted by imperms and board breaking situations, so you can like beat like Rescue Ace and decks like that like on the spot when you make a Mud Dragon, and they have like set 4, right? But that didn't really come up this format. That's not like what Snake Eye's doing it, for instance. So like I think Mud Dragons might have been able to be cut for the Gurura. Like we saw Abomod run Gurura, so that's something that, you know, you can consider next format as well. Droplet could be at 3, but you have to worry about consistency. That's why Thrust is at 2 as well, because if you have 3 Thrust, 3 Droplet, 3 Super Poly, you're just like bricking a lot. So you have to like cut down on some, and even then I think this was like too much. I think like I'd probably cut 1 non-engine at this point, but it worked out when I played it, at least to Master 1. And then 3 Branded Opening, 3 High Spirits, best spell cards in the deck besides Branded Fusion, and then 1 Branded in red. This card's good. It's just a solid grind game piece, honestly. It's usually why I get off at turn 3 or 4, because you're always going for the Branded Banishment play off of Aluber, tributing Lubellion off of Albion, so you can set up a Chaos Star Source on your opponent's turn. Pop 2 super strong plus a Search of Mercury or whatever you need is super good. So I think, and also Banishment just like solos a lot of decks. You can revive your Mirror Jade. We're only on 1 Mirror Jade, but we're running the Sword and Banishment, so we're always keeping the Mirror Jade in rotation. It never really feels like I needed the second Mirror Jade. At least it didn't come up for me. It came up sometimes when I was going against Cash, but like for instance, I was running 2 Mirror Jade at that time, so it didn't matter, right? So I wouldn't like stick to 2 Mirror Jade. Like if you're going against some Cash matchups, like you're seeing a few Cash, you know, feel free to stick the Mirror Jade, but like cut the Lenatus if you're, for instance, not seeing Blue Eyes or Mud Dragon's not coming up. But it's just one of those things on Master Duel where you kind of have to adjust to the matchups you're seeing, like the flavor of the night, and then also what you're losing to, so you stop losing to it, right? Because sometimes you have to make your build more going second when you're like losing 80% of your die rolls and stuff like that. And then 1 Branded Sword, we just talked about this on the podcast, and then also on the recent short I just uploaded, I think brand sword is also like basically mandatory at 60 cards, like Abamad said. It really does help you recur the pieces, get back the Albaz in rotation for the crackback, and get back the 1 Mercurier. I think you need sword with 1 Mercurier, so and that's why I was running the 1 Merc, because I was like, oh, I'm running branded sword, I don't need the 2 Merc, and largely that was the case. And then, because by the time I needed the 2nd Merc, I really didn't need it. I was usually in a winning position, so that's still the theory behind this over the 2 Tragedy, so it's not like it's bad. Then Banishment also synergizes with the 2 Tragedy. 1 Duplication, this card was insane. Like, sometimes I want to run 3 of this card, honestly, just to play through Maxi. That might be, like, the play at some point. And then one Retribution. We're only running 2 Tragedy, but 2 Retribution might be something in the future. I don't know. I hate 2 Retribution, personally. So that's why I felt like the 2... Like, I'd rather run 2 Tragedy than 2 Retribution. I think I'd run, like, 2 Merc, 2 Tragedy over, like, 2-2. And then, extra deck, we already explained a lot, but Borreload, you know, of course... this card's just like, you need something else to rotate into besides Mirror Jade, because if you look at this extra deck, there's not a whole lot else going on besides Mirror Jade. Like Renbrum Albaz, Super Poly kind of in the control, but you also have the Chaos Star Source, right? Like, so you're getting so much off your Chaos Star Source in Mirror Jade, but you need something else. So the Borreload's very good. I would love to have a Stapelia here somewhere, maybe over the Mud Dragon. Mud Dragon was really bad, honestly. I mean, it was okay. It did win some games, but like, I don't know. I feel like Stapelia might have been a little better. And Boral was just great, incredible. It was fine. I just, like, sometimes I wish it was a 2nd Chaos Star Source sometimes, but that on-field presence is super good. And then 1 Titanclad. And then 2 Albion, 1 Quertus. Quertus is something I was debating on not running, but I just think we need it for the grind game a lot of the time. Just having 1 Despian target, sometimes I end up cutting it because Master Duel's so tight, but I don't know, some decks, there's just so many decks out there where, like, a lot of them just can't out this now. It's not like we're only going against Snake Eye, which has, like, Flameburge, right? That's when I kind of was cutting Quertus. And then 1 Mirror Jade. Once again, I'd love to run 2, but this guy's the GOAT. If you know how to abuse this guy, you don't need to. This is all you need. And then 1 Lubalion, 1 Alba, 1 Grangwignall. I wish I could run 2, but it's just like way too tight. 1 Renbrum, the GOAT. If you always insulate your lines with an Albaz in graveyard, so your Mirror Jade can send a Renbrum, and then you have like additional 2 interruptions on your opponent's turn. That's also where Stapelia and like Borreload comes up, so you can summon off a Renbrum. And also just like through hand traps, Sanctifier for your Maxi line, and then also once you've already exhausted your Mirror Jade, you can go to Sanctifier and revive the Mirror Jade. So you have like 4 ways to revive Mirror Jade, right, in this build, or recur it, essentially. 1 Rex Tremend for the Fiendsmith matchup, of course, just one-shots it. You can actually, funny enough, trigger its effect if you need to discard a card. Like, let's just say you have to discard Ret. And you can get a Quertus in the graveyard, and then you can banish that Quertus for a Mirror Jade instead of like going to Lubalion and discarding a card. You can just summon Albion, banish the Quertus, make Mirror Jade. That line didn't come up for me where it was useful, because a lot of the time you don't want to discard, but you know, theoretically it can come up. And then Verte, this card's so good. Once again, check out my combo guides on this card, because you literally can play through 5 hand traps with this card. And if you aren't running this and branded on Master Duel, you are behind. Just frankly saying. So yeah, that was the build, guys. Once again, I think I basically mentioned everything I'd do into next format. Once again, like, we're looking at Fua and Droll for over a few different things. Yeah, I still love the non-engine package, but, you know, I think some things might change. Maybe more Bestials as well. So yeah, guys, thank you for watching. Leave a comment down below what your favorite part was. Once again, check out my full guide for the month of June 2025. We'll be making one for July next month once the format changes and things get established, and I'll be showing you guys how to beat the meta. Let me know down below. Check out all my links. Check out my branded spreadsheet on my website, MetaGamesGX.com. Really glad I was feeling good enough to do this. I'm having a lot of issues with my ear. Putting like an earplug basically in my ear allowed me to do this with 0 pain, so that was nice. But I'm gonna be taking a little bit of a break of like live streams, I believe, until I figure this out, because I don't want to permanently hurt my hearing, right? My hearing, right? So yeah, guys, wish me luck, and we'll be seeing you guys later. Also, I probably will not be at Nats, because unless, you know, if you have a room for me, shout me out. But besides that, probably not gonna try to spend $1,000 on a room, so